Okay. In terms of last week, I know we're over that, but just do a couple of comments on that. I thought the guys tackled well. I thought all 11 played with great energy and passion, and it showed on the play out there. Really, really happy for those guys, and it was intentional. The guys worked their tail off, had extra meetings as a group. That showed some good leadership. And then really the guys that played real well was obviously Jadavian played well, Donovan, Duran, and really a lot of the guys did, and I'm excited for them. Hard work. It's hard work. This league is tough, and it was good to see those guys having fun out there playing, and it's really about growing and improving. Just keep a consistent improvement, and evaluate your work, from the last game, and then just work to improve. It's just that simple. It's all we got is what we do on the grass. The guys worked hard yesterday, in terms of stopping the run and, being all together in terms of their execution, and then today's more about pass and third down. So we'll get going there today. Just put the plan in, the initial plan in. Guys picked it up well in the walkthrough, and we'll see where it goes into the practice. Excited to have Sean and Vaughn out there. Those guys been working really hard. Want to credit the training staff. They've done an outstanding job of getting those guys, working those guys, and getting them back to healthy. They're going to do a little bit more today, so I'm excited for that, for those guys. But with that, I'll open up to questions.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. How much was the success you had defensively last week about playing more man-to-man?
It's every week's different. Last week, we played more man-to-man because it was the right thing to do, and but obviously when you can do that, you're tighter in windows and stuff like that. We've done it some more on third down as of late, but the guys did a nice job of executing. It's important that we go forward, that we have multiple things in our package that we can do, pressures and man pressures, zone pressures, and all the like. But guys did a good job of executing.
Considering some of your corners would like to play more man, is that something you would like to do a little bit more of going forward, regardless of what the analytics might say?
Yeah, it's always about matchup. It's always about matchup. It's always going to be about that. It's a matchup league, so we got to make sure that we understand that, and we got to make sure we got to ask our guys to do what they can do, and then do that and make it a strength.
Nick Harris, four-star Telegram. With the changes not only in playing more man, but also applying more pressure, where did you see the benefit of the pressure aspect of those things?
Yeah, pressure comes in a lot of ways, right? It's 4-man, 5-man, and extra overloads, and I think that you have to have that in your package. And it's important to be able to mix it up. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. You got to be able to mix it up, and I think the guys did a good job of that. So they learn a ton of information fast. It's a smart group. So you're able to do that. So I'm excited about this week too.
That Jack Sanborn, he was healthy, but Shamar James was the guy who got most of the reps. What have you seen from Shamar to be able to have that trust in him?
Yeah, just the way he performed in the game was pretty good. Last few games, he's really done a nice job since the Jets game, and I'm excited for him. He's a quick athlete, super smart, high energy. He brings passion to the game. You can see that. Obviously, he made a couple splash plays in there too, and we expect the same. He's just got to keep growing. He's a rookie, so he's learning. There's so many teaching moments with him as a rookie, getting in the fire there and playing full time, and he's doing a good job of learning those things. And he's a hard worker, man. He applies what we teach him, and it's starting to show.
Matt, Todd Archer of the ESPN. What excites you most about seeing Overshown on the field?
Mostly excited about seeing you, but Overshown, obviously a great athlete. And I've been talking to him. The biggest thing with Sean that I talked to him about is that he's a great athlete, but he can move more efficiently. We're always trying to get 6 inches or a foot closer to the ball so we can make plays. Be it a tackle or a tip ball or an interception, and that's what the coach's job is, to really point that out to the player, keep drilling the fundamentals about being an efficient mover. How to really create power in your game. And he's got some work to do there. He knows that. But man, just in terms of the clay that you get to work with, man, he is a great athlete. And again, he's like Shamar and Easy and all those guys that really have great passion for the game. And it'll be a big spark.
he spent a lot of time with you in training camp, listening to the calls and things like that. What do you think the benefit of that was for him and maybe for you to learn him a little
Well,
bit?
like everybody, just learning the new system, right? He was learning the new system. He was learning the verbiage and how we talk and how the calls come in, and he was going through all the adjustments as the formations were coming out. So he was getting reps, during that time, and I think that's been invaluable for him to be able to, be caught up, stay caught up, and be where he is now.
John Machota with The Athletic, with Overshown, being around him since you got here, obviously he wasn't able to do stuff on the field. How do you think he's handled that, with staying engaged and staying motivated?
He's been antsy, man. He's been wanting to get out there, and he's been just probably tired of working with Britt. I would be too. He's not that personable with whatever. But I do think that he's been antsy, man. He's been ready to get out there. He's been chomping at the bit, whatever terms you want to use. But man, he'll be ready. So excited for him.
And then with JW and Clowney, why do you think he was able to have kind of a breakout game for the season?
I just think time on task. He didn't have a training camp. So I think it's been a month, something like that. So it's right about the same amount of time. And just getting in the system, knowing the system. He wants to do right, wants to make sure that he's in the right spots. But we got a chance to see him turn it loose a little bit last week, and there's more in there. There's more in there, and we're excited to see the more.
Tommy Arsh, DallasCowboys.com. What did you like about Savon Rebel during the draft process, and what do you think he can do for you when he gets back to be able to play on Sunday?
Yeah, big, strong, powerful corner. He's got really good press skills. He's a willing tackler, and he's actually more than that. He's a really good hitter. And when you get a big body, on those big body receivers, I think that's an advantage that you can have and utilize.
And this Denver offense uses the most screen yards in the league. How do you, with your corners getting off of blocks on the outside, what goes into that preparation this week? Is it maybe more?
Yeah, just reps, right? Put them in practice. Show the guys the tape. Put it in the walkthroughs and all that. And I think it's important that we have our minds and attention to that. Because they coach it well, they do it well, and it's really, obviously you said it, number one screen team in the league.
Joe. Joe White, Dallas Morning News. Shotty said after the game that analytics played a big role in you guys running man. You kind of alluded to that as well. What is your process for taking in analytics, kind of discerning it, and then also using analytics versus feel in terms of play calling?
It's like anything. You have to watch the tape. Analytics tells you something, but the tape tells you the truth. So we have to really understand that the tape tells us what's going on. And but I like to get the analytics first to look at it, to see where it is, and then really get the evidence off the tape. Then you see, how can you move your defense to fit, what they're doing on offense, and then really, it's just about the guys executing, right? What kind of technique you want to use, how are you going to do stacks, bunches, all those types of things that you have to talk about. But it's a starting point.
We talked about confidence with the players a lot through the first 6 weeks. Obviously, last week was a big confidence booster. When you have such a confidence-boosting game after the kind of stretch you guys had, how pivotal is the next game in terms of retaining that or even building on it?
Yeah, there's always good and bad in every performance, so we look at it that way. So there was some good, a few weeks ago, there was some good earlier, there was good in the first game, whatever game it is, there's always good that you can build upon, and there's things you can improve on, so everybody always looks at numbers and looks at different things like that, and that's cool. I get that, but when you're growing and improving as a unit, you really have to, look at the positives and then look and see what you can do better in terms of fundamentals. That's a big focus for us across our entire team, is really keep on the fundamentals and drill the fundamentals, make them game-like, there's a conditioning level to them. And, so the guys are doing it repetitive over and over again. And I thought our coaches did a nice job, and I thought the players did a nice job yesterday.
Babe Loffenberg, 105.3 The Fan, Cowboys Radio. Matt, obviously, Duran had the pick six, but a couple of big plays in his tackling game. Defeated Ertz on the 2-point. He got the tackle on Jaden Daniels, and he goes 3rd and 13, but he got McNichols a couple of yards short of the first down on the sideline, forced to punt there. Just, did you know he was that kind of tackler, and is that a part of him being in the slot? Obviously, a little more involved in the run game on nickel.
Yeah, well, first of all, he's an impressive young man. He's uber smart. Obviously, the talent, he's very talented. He's got wide tires. He can stop on a dime. That's the thing that jumps off the tape. His coverage ability is outstanding. But he has good instincts. He's not just a cover guy. He has great instincts to be able to bait people. So he's a hell of a talent. And then if you got a corner that can tackle, that's a willing tackler, that's a very good tackler like he is, that is a huge bonus. So you can use him in multiple spots, inside, outside. You can put him where you need him, and it's not too big for him to handle, in terms of that. So excited for him. I'm glad he's playing well here the last few games, and it's going to continue.
Scott Dixon, DAP. Kenny Clark, what have you seen from him leadership-wise, considering how late he joined the team?
Just a true pro. He's been really good. I showed the guys the walkthrough. Wasn't happy with a couple walkthrough reps yesterday, and I showed them that. And the ones I showed that were really good was him. Really taking his steps. Feet, hands, and eyes, going through the rudiments of the game, even in a walkthrough. And we have to all do that all the time. So when we have elite in the indoor at the walkthrough, we'll have elite in practice and then elite in the game. So there's a process to it, and he understands that process, and that's why he's played 10 years.
Garrett Podell, CBS Sports. Matt, Kyrie Elam back in the starting lineup this past week. What did you see from his performance?
First off, he had a really good week of practice. So I saw some of those things in practice. He's going to continue to work, on all his skill sets, and he's improving. I really like where he is, but again, there's always competition across the board, and I think we just keep that going. But I was happy the way he played.
Facing Bo Nix, what are your thoughts on kind of his abilities after kind of a down game against the Jets and then the big game, obviously last week against the Giants?
Yeah, he's gritty. That's the first thing that stands out to me, man. What a competitor. I believe he's a coach's kid. You can definitely tell that for sure. But he's a gritty competitor. He can run. His ability to scramble is a problem. You saw that at the game last week in the 2-minute. I know it was 6 minutes to go, but it's took off and ran and got a big gain there, and then a big money play on the sweep. At the very end there. So he's got really good ability to run. He's quick, understands when things break down, he can take off. So that's a problem for everybody.
Sydney, and thanks for that.
Coach, Sydney Staples, DG10 Sports. How do you find a balance of being a defense that dictates to an offense you're playing against how they should play versus allowing another offense to dictate what you do as a defense?
Man, I think you stay aggressive. I think that's one thing, and you pick your spots when you're aggressive. And you got to change up your looks and keep them off balance, the best you can. We're playing a very diverse offense, in the run game and the pass game this week. And they give you a lot of different looks, a lot of different things that they do in terms of the run game and the pass game. So we have to be sound. We got to make sure we're playing aggressive and attacking, and that's the way you do it. And but, yeah, it's a good group we're playing this week.
Ed Warder, WFAA. Regarding Trayvon Diggs, what's his status and what are your expectations for him this week?
Yeah, in status, he's in concussion protocol still, so we'll see where it goes. Typically, when a person goes into concussion protocol and stays there later in the week, the chances of playing are slim, but we'll see where it goes.
And last thing, obviously there's a lot of conjecture with the trade deadline coming up after you play these next 2 games, and it's all been about Jerry saying, is there something out there that can improve the defense? What's your role in that? Are you involved in those conversations?
That's a simple answer. Listen to Jerry. That's it.